All right, welcome to the Here Brotherhood podcast. So glad to have a friend and teacher and wizard of relationships.
A wizard.
Wizard
All
Nate
right.
Bagley. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks
Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Okay.
Anytime I get a chance to sit down for an hour and talk to you, it's a good day.
Oh, I feel the same way.
Thanks.
So, Nate, I called you a relationship wizard, researcher. Tell our audience a little bit about what that means. Give them a little context background.
So back in 2012, long time ago, I was single, frustrated, and desperately wanted to be married. But I was dating a lot as well, and my relationships all ended in breakups. And often the girl that I had dated and broken up with would go on to marry the next guy that she dated. And I was like, obviously, there's not something wrong with these amazing women I'm dating. There's something wrong with me. So what is not working? What is broken? What do I need to figure out in order for me to have the type of relationship I want to have? And long story short, I ended up deciding to go find couples who had the type of relationship that I wanted, because there's a lot of marriages that I witnessed in my life growing up that I looked at them and I'm like, if that's what marriage is, I don't know that I'm that interested. But there were a small handful of marriages that I would look at and I'd see them interact, I'd see them together, and I'd be like, wow, they got something special. And if I could have something like that, that'd be a pretty great life. So I wanted to find as many of those couples as I could and sit down and talk with them and see if I could figure out what are they doing differently than everybody else that's making their relationship so unique, so that's making it stand out to me. So I did this cross-country road trip. I raised a bunch of money on Kickstarter and traveled around the country with a colleague, Melissa, and we interviewed couples from all walks of life. We interviewed a couple who was in an arranged marriage. We interviewed couples who were religious and non-religious, couples who were gay and straight, couples who were rich and lived in like skyrise apartments in downtown San Francisco, couples who lived in the Midwest in really small towns and small homes and had a very cozy, probably not very financially well-off situation. And really just tried to figure out like what are these things, what are the things these couples have in common. And on that journey, I started getting introduced to authors and researchers and therapists and people who had dedicated their lives to actually answering the questions and solving the mysteries that I wanted answers to, and found that that a lot of them had some incredible insights, but didn't really have a great way of disseminating those insights to the regular world. So I ended up spending the next decade being kind of an intermediary between researchers and authors, and helping share the things that work with the world. And so I taught I had a podcast, still have a podcast I haven't published on in a long time. Apologies to anybody who might be a listener, but there's a lot of great stuff in the archives there.
Which is called?
Growth Marriage.
Growth Marriage.
Yeah. And then and we can get into why it's called that at some point if you want. And yeah, we just produced a lot of events, and just I would call myself like a marriage educator. I was never interested in like therapy and working with couples one-on-one. A lot of couples who end up going to therapy, not all of them, but a lot of them go as like a last-ditch effort to save their marriage. And I was more interested in working with couples who wanted to be a little bit more proactive, and who either were trying to fortify their relationship against the problems that they saw other people facing, or who could sense that they were drifting in that direction and wanted to like reinforce their relationship and learn the skills and mindsets that they needed to be successful. And so, yeah, I would say that compared to most people, I've had more exposure to some of the top marriage experts on the planet than just about anybody. And it's been a really incredible and eye-opening experience. And that's it's a real passion of mine, is helping people understand what it takes to have the type of relationship that thrives over time instead of eroding over time.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. There's so much there that we could dive into, and we've had you come and speak at a couple of our couples events. We've done a couple of day-long couples retreats, and you were our like keynote speaker, and both times just incredible. Like,
thanks.
People's minds being blown, and then they start asking questions. My favorite is when you're like, yeah, open up the Q&A. all of a sudden you're basically becoming their marriage counselor because they're like, well, I wonder about this, and it's obviously like a problem they're dealing with.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you just start to pull it out of them, and then you start to
Well,
it was amazing to witness that.
this is something I really wanted to talk about today, and I'm glad that it's coming up right now.
Yeah.
I find that one of the reasons people struggle in their marriage, so I think the most important, the first step to solving a problem is being able to name the problem.
Yeah, awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not just awareness that you have a problem, but a name, a label.
Yeah,
like
label it.
once you get if you have a collection of symptoms and you go talk to your doctor and you're like, these are the symptoms I have, and they go, oh, that collection of symptoms is this disease or this malady or this issue. Here is the solution.
Yeah.
Like once you can figure out what you become aware of the problem, and you find out it has a name. And not only does it have a name, but like because it has a name, other people have dealt with it and they've dealt with it successfully. And that means there's like a treatment plan, there's a process, there's steps I can take to actually address this issue. It gives people hope. And so I don't necessarily consider myself. I have a really big thesaurus or dictionary, a big encyclopedia in my head of labels of problems that couples encounter.
Yeah.
And I'm really good at identifying and naming what that problem is, and to see the hope that people get in their eyes when they're like, "Oh, this isn't
That's
like a thing
happening.
the only we're experiencing. This is a thing that happens to other people, and it has a name. And not only that, people have written books about it and done research on it, and there's like things that we can do to solve this problem." They get so excited, and so that's what I love in that setting, is like helping people understand that they're not alone in their problems. And I wish there was more education research, or there was more marriage education, excuse me, in the world. I wish that people were exposed to that earlier on so that they could be aware of the problems that could and probably will come their way before they're presented with them, so that they could just label it and be like, oh, I don't have to be afraid of this. Like, I don't have to be afraid of this issue.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of marital struggles come from people, one, not looking actively to label and name their problems, or two, naming the wrong problem.
Yeah.
Like they're experiencing something and they misdiagnose it, and then they try and treat it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it can be really disastrous.
Okay, so that leads me to want to ask, what are some of the most common diagnoses, some of the most common labels that you see in couples? And while you're kind of thinking about that, I do want to touch on the growth marriage name, and there might be a connection here as one of those common ones. Because I already know the quote that I literally researched. I was researching relationship stuff, and I found this awesome quote, and I included it in a presentation I was doing. And it was your quote, and we hadn't met before. I didn't even know you lived in Utah or in like the Salt Lake area. It was just that's how we met. That's how we got connected.
Because you had to give a talk on marriage.
Yeah.
And you ended up quoting me and then finding out that I lived right around the corner.
Yeah.
So,
here we are. Funny.
So small world.
Yeah. So tell us, maybe start there.
Yeah.
Because I think there's something there around like maybe expectations, and, you know.
Yeah. So this is kind of an idea that I hijacked from David Schnarch, who I learned about through Jennifer Finlayson Fife. If you've ever heard her podcast, she does incredible work with couples. And David Schnarch, I'll summarize or paraphrase his quote, but he talks about how we often get married for the wrong reasons, and then we have to learn the right reasons to stay married. And what he means by that is that most people fall in love because they like the reflected sense of self that they see when they're with their partner. In other words, they like the version of themselves that the person they're in a relationship with sends back to them.
Yeah.
You know, they laugh at their jokes. Oh my gosh, she thinks I'm so funny. She thinks I'm sexy. She thinks I'm interesting. She wants to spend time with me. She doesn't think I'm annoying. She doesn't mind that I repeat the same stories over and over. She's willing to overlook my clutteriness or my absent-mindedness. Like she just, this person that you're with sees all the virtues and overlooks all of the flaws.
Yeah.
And it feels really good. And we are so just intoxicated with all of the hormones and endorphins when we're with this person that we think, oh my gosh, maybe if I just decide to spend the rest of my life with this person, I'll feel this way forever. And obviously that's not true. I think we all logically know that's not true, but emotionally it feels like, oh, this is the person I need to tie myself to. So you get married, and then it doesn't take long for the biggest sources of conflict and disappointment and pain to come from your partner, in part because they're showing you they're starting to reflect back at you the things that suck about you, like your flaws and your imperfections and your struggles. And suddenly you become painfully aware that you have the ability to like really disappoint and hurt somebody. That maybe maybe your absent-mindedness or your tardiness or your messiness or when you're tired, you become like really grumpy or critical, or maybe you have a propensity to be really defensive when your partner wants to talk about an issue, or maybe you're really cynical and sarcastic and it starts to grate on them, or maybe you just don't follow through on your promises and there's a big trust issue. And like suddenly your partner, the person that's depending on you to have a partnership, a functional life, starts reflecting back at you all your flaws. And this reflected sense of self that you're getting is not so positive anymore. Yeah. And it can be really humbling and painful and difficult. And to go back to that Schnarch, to go back to that quote by David Schnarch, he talks about how we have to learn the right reasons to be married. And so I call this kind of funk that most couples get in after a little while of marriage, where the connection into intimacy and the conversation kind of starts to fade a little bit.
Like the honeymoon stage.
The honeymoon stage ends. I call it kind of roommate syndrome.
Oh yeah.
You can grab it.
Okay.
Do you want to grab it?
Right.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So I call it roommate syndrome. And I think roommate syndrome is a feature, not a bug of relationships. So the reason I think that is because this moment that you get, this experience that you have of realizing that the version of you that was being reflected back at you at the beginning of the relationship that was only positive is a bit of a lie. Like when that starts to wear off, you get the gift of learning the things that you need to work on. And more often than not, the problems that you're facing inside your marriage are a reflection of those weaknesses, and that discomfort that you feel, the worry that you feel of, did I marry the right person? Like, are we doomed to be miserable for the rest of our lives? Are we going to end up getting divorced like everybody else? Like those fears that kind of creep in, like that's a good sign that you're on the right track and that you have an opportunity to work on those things and outgrow your problems. So the idea that the reason that you get married is so you can be happy and feel really good about yourself, that's the reason we fall in love, but it's not the reason to stay in love.
Yeah.
The reason to stay in love is because our partner gives us the ability to see ourselves, like our true selves.
Yeah.
To expose ourselves to blind spots and things that we didn't know were even there. And then we get to work on those things and improve as people. And in improving, in outgrowing our challenges and overcoming the obstacles that we face as individuals and as a couple, we gain this like deep sense of connection and partnership and trust and belonging and like true love. And those are the right reasons to be married. Like the right reason to be married is like, I look at my marriage right now, and it's not perfect by any stretch. Like it's there. We've gone through some tough stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is that every tough thing that we get through, every hard conversation we have, every disagreement that we're able to navigate with grace and compassion and forgiveness, we come out on the other side, and it just adds to the resume of things that we've been able to overcome. And we can look back and go, look how far we've come.
Yeah.
Look at all the things that we've like overcome together. Like if we can get through all that stuff, what can't we face? Like, it validates. And even like my wife and I had a conversation the other day about like how we're just not the same people that we were when we got married anymore, and how great that is to have seen each other's growth over time. And to me, that's what marriage is all about.
I love that, because there's a depth of intimacy that comes when you face and move through those obstacles, as opposed to doing the alternatives that are tempting for many of us, and that we all go through, which are to avoid, to close off, wall off, distract, whatever else that might look like, right? Because we're bumping up into discomfort, and there's fear of facing maybe that part of ourselves or with our partner that might feel like it's disconnecting. But in fact, when we move through that, I think there are probably healthy ways and maybe not so healthy ways to confront and move through those things. But if we're able to, in a healthy way, move through that, like the depth of connection is even more profound. And I just love that. The quote that I quoted from you, it was something like this: the purpose of marriage isn't happiness. The purpose of marriage is growth.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And happiness is a byproduct of growth.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. If
yes.
you try and chase happiness, you're going to be disappointed because happiness is fleeting. Happiness can disappear because you eat a bad burrito at lunch. There's so many things that can impact your happiness. And so if you're looking to live a happy life, then I think you're going to be disappointed. Like, you can't pursue it directly. It has to be a byproduct of pursuing something else. And I think one of the most consistent sources of happiness is growth.
Yeah.
It's putting some effort into something and having a positive outcome and being able to really revel and be proud of that outcome.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, let's talk about the moment of discomfort, the moment of, hey, something's off, something's wrong. We're having a conflict. We're stuck in this pattern where I feel maybe resentment. I feel lonely in the relationship, which is a different kind of loneliness than when you're just by yourself, because it should feel different, right?
Yeah.
Let's say something like that comes up, or is some, many of us are in various stages of this, and many of our listeners are in various stages of disconnection or connection, right? But if we're talking about like, okay, there's a pain point here, what is your guidance for how to start moving through that? Like, what do you do when you notice something's off, something's hurting? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, I think, there's two tracks that you can go. This is another David Schnarch thing. He talks about the growth cycle. And when you reach this kind of fork in the road, this moment of discomfort, you have two options. You can avoid, which can feel really good. And sometimes it's necessary.
Just to have some space.
Yeah, sometimes you're not ready
to
lean in and have the conversation. Sometimes you need to take space away from the problem and do a little bit of research, do a little bit of self-reflection. What am I bringing to the table here? Sometimes finding a name for the problem that you might be facing could be helpful. Thinking about how this problem has come up in the past, because 69% of conflict in marriage is recurring conflict. The thing comes up over and over and over again. Most conflict in marriage doesn't have a resolution. It's a different, same thing, different day. And so thinking about, man, how have we done this dance before, and how has it turned out? And, what have I maybe brought into this conversation in the past, or that has made it harder or not productive as far as finding a solution, or what am I doing to contribute to this problem? So, one choice is to avoid. You can also avoid just because it's easy. You can avoid.
I'm so glad you went there,
numb out.
Because I was like, you said avoid, but then you actually talked about self-confrontation.
Yeah.
Not like avoiding. Where you're going, which is like, I'm just not going to deal with this ever.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the more common reason to avoid, is because it just is easier.
Yeah.
I'm so stressed out with everything else I got going in my life. I just don't want to talk about taxes right now. I just don't want to talk about sex right now. I just don't want to talk about my in-laws right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about disciplining the kids right now. I don't want to talk about the cleanliness of the house right now. I don't want to talk, there's a laundry list of things that we just don't want to talk about, because I'm just done. I'm over it. It's just going to end in another fight. I'm resigned. Maybe there's a history or a pattern of things not going well, or it always ending up being your fault, or there's 1,000 different reasons to just avoid the conversation.
Yeah.
But avoiding, there is no problem in any relationship that distance will not cure, emotional or physical distance. And that's not necessarily the best remedy, but if you want to feel better, moving away from the source of pain is a great idea.
Interesting. But that doesn't sit right with me, though. To say there's this problem, we're just going to distance.
It doesn't fix the problem. It just fixes your emotion connected to the problem.
Okay.
If you don't want to get burned, you move away from the fire, right?
Right.
If you don't want to get bit by the dog, then you don't get close to the dog.
Yeah.
Moving away from the thing that's causing you pain is a natural human instinct that will give you a chance to, that will get you a chance to recover and not feel pain. So more often than not, your natural instinct when something is going wrong in your relationship is going to be to avoid, to create distance.
Right.
But the problem is that if you have, over time, the longer you're with your partner, if you have lots and lots of little conflicts, you might start out having let's think physical proximity as intimacy.
Sure.
You might start your relationship having this really close, like you're inseparable, and then death by 1,000 paper cuts, like every little slight, every little hurt feelings, every little argument, like you learn something new that you need to distance yourself from. And over time, you find yourself on opposite sides of the Grand Canyon, and you can't be intimate with somebody. You can't be close and connected with somebody if you're avoiding every topic, and you can't even have a conversation without getting frustrated, defensive, critical, angry, upset, and it just doesn't work. So avoidance works in the moment,
right?
But over the long term, it doesn't help you close that gap.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. No, thanks for clarifying that.
And staying in that avoidance loop is bad. Yeah. But there's like value to that avoidance loop. There's value to taking a little bit of space.
Right.
And there's also like an opportunity to check in and be like, okay, am I taking the space to like calm down, or am I taking the space to really just avoid this conversation because I'm too afraid to have it, or I don't have the skills to have it, or I'm just afraid of what's going to happen if I have it. So when we avoid, you run the risk of growing disconnection, apathy towards your partner, and if it occurs for long enough, your marriage will die. And that doesn't necessarily mean you get a divorce. I know plenty of marriages that aren't real marriages, right, and they're still living in the same house, sleeping in the same bed, but they're not sharing anything. There. Yeah, there's no real relationship. Yeah. They share the same household and children, but that's basically the sum total of their relationship at this point. And that's really heartbreaking. And you can choose to live that life. Some people prefer that because it's just more comfortable than the alternative. But the alternative is to take the other route at this fork in the road. You experience something uncomfortable, pain, discomfort, frustration, loneliness, and you think, okay, we need to talk about this. We need to address this. And in doing so, you have to be willing to exchange anxiety, worry, fear, experiencing something new, traveling into a place that you've never been before in favor of growth. So that's the first step to outgrowing your problems, is being willing to take on a little bit more anxiety. It's being willing to sit down with your partner and say, I love you. There's something in our relationship that is not working, and I want to talk about it. And I want you to be happy, and I want to be happy. And I feel like for both of us to experience like a more smooth and connected relationship, we need to address this thing that's happening and find out a way to manage it better. Can we have that conversation? That can be scary, especially if you have a long track record of not ever doing that. It's a risk. But that's the first step to growing and to overcoming your problems, is you have to lean into that anxiety.
Yeah, which actually increases anxiety.
It increases the discomfort that you're already feeling. So it's a really brave and courageous thing to do. But if you're willing to do that and you can hold on to yourself while you're doing it, what happens is that oftentimes you'll see some progress. You'll get a win. You'll come up with a plan. You'll successfully navigate one of these conversations in a way that you haven't done it before. And you like take this big deep breath. You get a little bit of confidence. It feels like it fuels a little bit of connection between you and your partner because you have a mutual win. And you have a plan going forward, you have some clarity, and it kind of adds rocket fuel to your relationship. And the trust increases. And then, it really contributes to just the lifeblood of your relationship, being willing to lean in and address those issues.
To make this a little more tangible, do you have a story either of your own or of a couple that you maybe have worked with or that or whatever, that maybe lays out like, okay, here was the problem and here's how we confronted that problem, moved through it, and found more alignment after, more connection after, whatever it is. Also, with the caveat, you said that what was I don't know if it was confrontation or something about the purpose of the argument or of the challenge isn't to like convince somebody, right? What was that line?
This is a quote from Dr. John Gottman, who's the godfather of modern marriage research. And he says, the purpose of conflict is not to solve the conflict in marriage. The purpose of conflict is to create mutual understanding.
Oh, that's like so profound.
Yep. Because most of these conflicts are unresolvable. Like if you try and solve an unsolvable problem, how do you think you're going to feel?
Yeah. frustrated.
So frustrated because no matter what you do, the problem keeps coming back. It's like, man, we've been working on this for how long? And we've tried 6 different game plans and we've had 1,000 conversations and this problem still keeps coming up. What is the deal? Like, it's so frustrating. But if you just realize, oh, guess what? This is just never going to go away. And our job is not to make it go away. Our job is to get better at managing it. And the way that we do that is we just try and have we try and create mutual understanding. I try and stop. I love this, this quote, the stay curious, not judgmental, from Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's from somebody else before that, like Walt Whitman or something like that. But how do I train myself when we face these issues to, instead of jumping right to my partner's out to get me and make my life miserable, to, wow, there must be something going on that she's struggling with or he's struggling with, and have a little bit more curiosity and compassion before we rush to judgment. And that curiosity and compassion is the thing. Like, sometimes you don't need your partner to say, here's what we need to do to fix it. Sometimes you just need them to be like, hey, you know what? Your frustration was valid. I totally see from your perspective how that would be a really, like, frustrating, or that you would feel disrespected, or that would be really disappointing. Your anger and your disappointment is totally valid.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you validated my experience,
right.
and I can see why you made the choice you made.
Right.
And granted, it wasn't ideal.
Right.
But at least I believe that you weren't out to get me.
Yeah. And you talked about, though, a moment ago, like, there are some things that just aren't going to change. But when you just said what you did and there's this mutual understanding, I feel like there is change in that. Yeah. And maybe it doesn't change, some of the recurring problems, but it changes the relationship with those things and the relationship with each other. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of problems can be attributed to desire. Whether like you and your partner are always going to have a different level of desire for anything in life.
Yeah, this is so important.
High desire versus low desire. When I say that, people immediately think sex, and that is
part of it.
Yeah, that is definitely part of it. But it's like, I have a higher desire than my wife to have a clean house. She can tolerate more clutter than I can. And I know that that's the reverse in a lot of other marriages, but that's just true for our marriage.
Right.
My wife has a higher desire for, like, physical affection than I do. Not that I don't have a desire for it. Her desire is just higher.
Yeah.
She loves to be hugged and touched and like kissed all the time. And it's not something that shows up on my radar as much. And those are things that are, early riser versus a night owl. There's so many different, like, somebody who likes to show up early versus somebody who likes to show right on time or fashionably late. Like, these are the conflicts that come up over and over and over again. I'm more forgiving, while somebody else is a little bit more, likes to hold boundaries a little more firmly, especially with kids, like parenting. Someone's more the disciplinarian, while someone else is a little bit more the forgiver. They're a little more gentle with the children. And that can be a conflict. Somebody likes to be a social butterfly and the other person is more of a homebody. Like, there's compromises that we have to make because we have differences in desire. And those differences never go away. It's not like you're going to wake up one day and your partner is going to desire all the same things at exactly the same level that you do at the same time always. That's being married to yourself, and I think we all know that would stink. It would not be fun to just be married to somebody who has nothing new or interesting to contribute or no way to challenge me. And so what I'm learning now is that the discomfort that this is something I'm really working on, like, personally in my marriage. The discomfort that I feel, the frustration, the negative emotions that I feel being in a relationship with my wife because of these differences of desire and these struggles that we face is the price I pay to have her in my life. So I think I've spent a lot of my marriage trying to fix those problems, and subtly the message I'm sending is I'm trying to fix her.
Yeah.
And by fix her, I mean make her me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Your desires are wrong.
Right.
Your way of living your life is wrong. The way that you do things, the way that you think about things, because it's not my way, it's wrong.
Right.
And I have to fix it by making you think and do and believe and act in the way that I think you should, because it would make my life easier.
Right.
And it's such an unfair thing. And I'm working really, really hard to, when I do feel that pain, like the loneliness, the frustration, the discord, to sit in it a little bit and just remember like, oh, this is the price I have to pay to have my wife in my life. And I'm so glad I have her in my life. I love her so much. And that pain is worth it. And it's starting to feel more like a gift. Yeah. It's starting to feel less like a pain that I resent and that I dislike and that I need to fix and make go away. And it's becoming more a pain of like, man, I'm glad this is the pain that I have because look at the life that I have. Yeah. If I didn't have this, I'd be with somebody else, and I don't want to be with somebody else. I want to be with her. And I think we focus too often on wanting to have, like we think that a perfect marriage is a marriage that's devoid of like conflict and pain and discomfort. And actually, like, the perfect marriage is the opposite of that. There's a lot of it because you're willing to have conversations and you're willing to lean in to the areas of discomfort where you need to grow the most and self-confront and tolerate the fact that your partner's not perfect and tolerate the fact that they're different than you. And then that's going to mean you're going to have some discomfort in life and that discomfort is great. It's actually like that discomfort is a gift.
It's part of that growth.
Yeah.
Right? It's part of that growth cycle.
Yeah. And so part of my job right now, and maybe part of everybody who's watching and listening, your job is to expand your capacity to tolerate discomfort, partly in favor of growth and partly in favor of love and acceptance. Like the bigger bucket you have, the bigger emotional bucket, the more discomfort you can tolerate, the more disappointment and frustration and hurt you can tolerate without overflowing and becoming reactive. The more likely you are to be able to love your partner for exactly who they are without them feeling like they need to change to make you happy.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Let's get into some of those common struggles. I think that the high desire, low desire is such an important just awareness for people, right? I think one that comes up probably, well, this is an assumption, probably comes up often for men is around sex.
Oh, for sure.
Generally, men are the higher desire partner.
Yeah.
And the dynamics of that, right? I know there's the kind of sex and intimacy that's really bonding and connecting and amazing and beautiful and powerful. And then there's the versions of it where maybe it doesn't happen at all, or maybe it happens, but it doesn't feel like all those things. I've heard, I think, JFF refers to it as like duty sex.
Duty sex
comes up, and
nobody wants duty sex.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of different iterations
duty sex
of that.
In many ways might be worse than no sex.
Right. So maybe speak to that.
Oh,
and
man.
How would you advise a man who's out there listening and he's going like, yeah, I am the higher desire one. I want this deeper connection, and for some reason there's like we're just not having that.
Yeah.
Or maybe the best I'm getting is duty sex, but that's not very fulfilling. And what do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say to a man in that position is, first of all, nobody's ever died of a sex emergency. Do you know what I mean?
Say more about
like,
that. What do you mean?
Like sometimes we act like sex is, if I don't get sex from you, then I don't know what I'm going to do. Like my brain's going to explode. I'm going to die. You know, like we treat it with such a sense of urgency, as if it were like a medical emergency. And nobody has ever died from a sex emergency. Nobody's ever died because they didn't have enough sex. I'm not saying that sex isn't important at all. Sure. I'm just saying that like
if there's an expectation of like I need sex this often or whatever, is that kind of
that's part of it.
Okay.
And part of it is like slow your roll a little bit. And I think most men approach this conversation with a sense of like we make it about us.
Yeah.
What is it about me that you don't want to have sex with me?
So I wonder if it's is it what's wrong with her, but actually the more
what's wrong with her that she's not attracted to me?
Right,
what's wrong with her that she doesn't want to be with me?
Yeah.
What's wrong with her? Like
so it
what
comes back to you?
Yeah, it's always a reflection of yourself. Yeah. You're trying to get a reflection like that when you use sex as a tool for validation, when you use sex as a tool for like feeling good about yourself as a man or as a husband or whatever. It's always going to be that reflected sense of self that you're trying to validate a version of yourself that you need to be true in order for you to feel good about yourself. And so taking just a minute to stop and think like, okay, like if my wife doesn't want to have sex with me, let's get curious. Why?
Yeah.
Is there something I'm doing? That's a great question to ask. Have I put on weight? Have I been really tyrannical? Have I like insulted her, hurt her feelings? Are there unresolved issues that might be going on? So to help with the inquiry, let me give another, I'm going to label a problem. So Emily Nagoski in her book, Come As You Are. It's a phenomenal book, largely about female arousal and desire. But she has this great analogy. It's called, so the human sexual response mechanism is a dual response model. So that she uses the analogy of a car. We have a gas pedal and a brake pedal. And so the gas pedal revs up the engine and gets you in the mood. It makes you want to it creates desire. It creates arousal. And then the brake pedal prevents arousal and desire. And a lot of us believe that, if I just push on the gas pedal harder, that things will work in our favor. But what she argues in her book is that the brake pedal is stronger than the gas pedal and more sensitive. And oftentimes, the reason that we aren't in the mood or that we don't want to have sex or experience pleasure is because there's just too many things in our lives that are keeping our foot on the brakes. And so when I say start getting curious, like there's a lot of things to be curious about. I think we make really broad sweeping assumptions about why a wife is not normally in the mood or has a lower level of desire than we do. But the number of reasons is beyond, like it's so vast, and to the point where they may not even know what's going on. Like so let me give you some examples. There's like two different types of brake pedal. There's stuff that goes on in your brain and in your body that you can't really see, and then there's stuff that's like environmental. So something as simple, an environmental one is like, the door's not locked. right, or if you're like at your in-laws house, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in a place where I don't feel like I can let loose, or I don't feel safe. It could be something like bad smells. Maybe we haven't showered and it's stinky. Like, I don't want to,
or the kitchen's still a mess.
Yeah, the kitchen's a mess. And that mess is just in the back of her head. Like, I can't relax. Because so much of arousal has to do with your physiological state. And if you're anxious and stressed about something, maybe you had a really tough conversation with your mom. And it's just like weighing on you.
Preoccupying.
Yeah, and you're preoccupied. Maybe something horrible happened in like just in the world. Some tragic event. It's like if you're feeling depressed and heavy, you're not just gonna like wake up and you're not gonna be in the mood. So those are all things that could be contributing. But there's also internal things. There's like how I feel about myself, how I feel about my partner. It could have something to do with my hormones. It could have something to do with like a nursing mom, moms who have babies. Like their hormones change a lot, and it impacts their physiological capacity to experience arousal and desire. And it could be like she spent all day with her kids and she's feeling touched out. I'm sure if you have kids, you've probably heard your wife talk about that, how the physical demands of watching little children all day and like parenting them can be exhausting. Maybe she is tired. Maybe she is fatigued. There's like 1,000 different reasons. And that's not even touching on the quality of your relationship and how things are going. That your partner could not be feeling desire, and they're not all about you. They don't all have something to do with you. So I would invite people who are in that situation where I'm not having as much sex as I want, I get rejected a lot. It's like, well, let's get curious. Are you willing to have a conversation without judgment with your partner
or
about, I would really love to share more sexual connection with you. I'd love to feel more physical intimacy with you. Can we talk about what might be getting in your way? I realize I probably have a higher desire than you do, but like, let's just talk about like what are some of the things that might hit your brake pedal. There's this gas pedal and this brake pedal, and I think historically I've just thought if I can rev up your engine, that you'll be in the mood. And I realize now that like even if your engine's revved up, if your foot's on the brake, it's not going to work so well for us. So how can I help you take your foot off the brake pedal? What do you think is keeping your foot there? Oh well, stress at work, or my parents have been really overbearing, or I've been having this fight with my best friend, or my body changed after I had a baby and I don't feel really good about it. I have shame from like things I was taught growing up about sex and what it means, or I have beliefs about Like we're not supposed to have sex unless we're trying to have a kid, and it shouldn't be, or I don't want to be a tool for your pleasure. Like I want to act, or I don't, maybe like this is a huge one. Like maybe she doesn't feel pleasure. Maybe it's painful for her. And if that's the case, there's stuff you can do to solve that issue. But if your partner is feeling pain or discomfort emotionally or physically when you're having sex, then like there are things you can do to address that stuff because it should be mutually pleasurable. Yeah. So that's a great place to start, is like this dual control model is the naming of the problem. And it's like, okay, let's get curious about what helps you rev up the engine and what helps you take your foot off the brakes. And let's see what I can do to help you do both of those things in the future so that we can both get more of what we want.
Yeah. When I think about that, approaching that conversation like that, one of the concerns that comes up for me is it sounds like I'm just trying to get something from you that that's really pleasurable and fun for me, and I want that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like maybe feeling used, and that's for me that could come up easily in that kind of context. So is there a way that you would approach that, frame that, so that it's not like, hey, I need something, like it's almost this neediness, right? And then that could even more kind of push away the proposition, right? So is there a way to approach that where you're framing it in such a way that it is not just about getting my sexual needs met per se, but it's about actually like something more mutually desirable?
Yeah, I think that you hit on the nail on the head. So I mean, it's gonna be there's no script that if you just follow it, it's gonna work for everybody. Like there's no such thing as universal.
She'll see right through it too if you're
but if your partner has that history of feeling used, then it's probably because she's not getting a whole lot out of a sexual experience. She feels like she's, essentially just she's not getting the same amount of pleasure that you are. And so if that was the case, then I would be really clear that I want this to be pleasurable for both of us, like optimally, maximally pleasurable. So can we talk about what
works?
What brings you pleasure? What makes you feel good? Like, there's this really great, I'm going to name another problem. There's this concept called sexual health. And I learned about it through a therapist, an amazing sex therapist. His name's Doug Braunharvey. And he talks about how sexual health is a balance between safety and pleasure. And if we over-index on safety, we don't have very much pleasure. And if we over-index on pleasure, then people don't feel safe. And so we have to find this balance between safety and pleasure. And he's developed these 6 principles of sexual health to help people develop a personal sexual health plan for yourself or for you and your partner, which I don't know if we have time to dive into right now, but it's worth looking up. But the summarized version is that balance of safety and pleasure. And so putting a little bit of thought into like how much of our sexual relationship is about my partner's pleasure versus how much of it is about my pleasure. And if she feels like it's all about your pleasure, then that's not going to be a fulfilling relationship for her. And she's not going to feel very eager or maybe even safe jumping in between the sheets with you, like there's got to be something in it for her. So I think they can sniff out really quick whether or not it's all about you or if it's a mutual thing. And I think I like the way that you positioned it, where it's like, hey, I want this to be good for both of us. Like you deserve more pleasure, and I would love to be the one who gives that to you. So maybe we do like a week or a month where it's all about you, and that would be great for me. Like what if for the next month, 3 times a week, all we did was just like whatever you felt was pleasurable. And we can just show up with curiosity. And if that's a back massage, that's enough. If it's a foot massage, that's enough. If it's more than that, if it's like kissing or like, or if it leads to intercourse, great. But like, let's make sure that you are getting what you want. And I think a lot of women, especially if you were raised in a conservative religious setting, a lot of women are very disconnected from even the idea of pleasure. Like pleasure has been associated with something that's bad, that's evil, that's selfish. And part of your job might be introducing your partner to pleasure. A lot of women don't even understand the pleasure, the physiology of pleasure within their own bodies. Like they've either shut it down or repressed it so much that their body has a negative reaction to it, or they just don't have the mechanical knowledge of how to feel pleasure. And it can be like a really great homework assignment to just like make it about her pleasure, to her comfort level. Let her decide, let her practice saying, yes, I want that, because that can be a scary thing. And let her practice saying, no, I don't want that, because that can be a scary thing. It's scary to say what you want, and it's scary to say no.
Right.
And giving her a safe space to practice that could like completely change the game for your sexual relationship. So there's a million billion things that you could do to address the issue, but pouting about it and being resentful and sulky and making it about yourself without being curious is going to get you nowhere fast.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Thank you. Right before we started this conversation, you were like, all right, so what do you want to talk about? And you were like, sex, porn,
whatever you want to talk about,
which totally made us laugh. But like, let's touch on the porn thing now, because we're talking about, that's also potentially one of the reasons that a woman would not want to go into intimacy if they know that their partner is engaged in viewing porn or whatever. And there's so much more to that, but like let's just touch on that topic, because I know you have some thoughts on it, and I'm just curious where you go.
So I did a podcast for a year with 2 sex therapists called Rethinking Porn Addiction. And that's a really great resource for anybody who might be dealing with this. And I'm a firm believer that the diagnosis of addict when it comes to pornography is often a misdiagnosis. And it's not helpful, and it actually does more harm than good. It's like treating a benign tumor with chemotherapy. And it's like, man, we just did not need to inject ourselves with this poison,
because it's like an identity, a label.
It's a label. It's a label, and it's often a mislabel because we rush to find. This is what happens: is we're experiencing a problem and we rush to find a label. And porn addict is the most readily available label that we have. And because people don't have other language to use, they glom onto that because it gives them hope. It's like, okay, now that I have a label, there's a treatment plan, there's things that we can do. There's
chemo
program. We're gonna do all these things that maybe you read about in books or hear about on the internet, listening to podcasts, and it ends up like what it ends up doing is just like completely in many cases, not always, but there's plenty of people out there who have had success with like a porn addiction treatment program. And that's great. I'm glad. But there's a lot of couples out there who they're getting the exact opposite outcome of what they wanted, where what they think their goal is to stop the porn.
Right.
And then when the porn stops, really what both people in the couple are doing is holding their breath.
Yeah,
like white knuckling it, waiting for the next slip up, waiting for the next little bit of bad news. Oh, I made another mistake. I looked again or whatever, and they end up. It just kills the intimacy. It turns your partner into kind of like an accountability buddy or a therapist, and it really just destroys the intimacy and connection. I think, especially and trust inside of a relationship. I don't think the outcomes are very positive in many of the cases that I've heard of. And so Doug Braun Harvey, this therapist that I worked with, is one of the 2 sex therapists. The other one is Kristen Hodson. If you want to look her up, she has some amazing resources as well on Instagram, and she has some courses and stuff. But Doug developed this idea, this diagnosis, if you want to call it a diagnosis, this label of a problem called out of control sexual behavior. And out of control sexual behavior can be like, it's any behavior where the person feeling it, experiencing it, feels out of control. It's a much less harsh label. And his methodology behind it is that you develop a sexual health plan. So the 6 principles of sexual health are honesty, shared values, prevention of STIs and unplanned pregnancies. Let me see if I can remember these all. I'm being put on the spot. Honesty, shared values, prevention of STIs and unplanned pregnancies, pleasure, and there's one more. I'll remember it in a minute.
Okay, no worries.
But the idea is you go through each one of these principles. Oh, consent. Yeah.
Oh, consent.
Consent and exploitation are the last 2.
Okay.
Consent and non-exploitation.
Okay.
So honesty, consent, non-exploitation, shared values, prevention of STIs and unplanned pregnancies, and pleasure. And so you go through each one of these things and you think about, like, what does this look like? in our life? And what does this look like for myself? What does it look like for me to be honest with my partner? What does it look like when my partner is honest with me? A big problem that people in this pornography dynamic experience is that one partner might be feeling that out of control urge to look at pornography, and they look at it, and then they're afraid to be honest because they've been threatened or because of the punishment that they might face from the backlash. And so they avoid being honest. And it's like, if you want to be in a partnership, that means you have to be able to emotionally tolerate hearing honesty from your partner without flying off the handle in a way that will make them not want to be honest with you in the future. Right. Or thinking about exploitation, like, oh, when I look at pornography, might I be exploiting the agreements that I've made with my wife? Is that a form of exploitation? And how do I feel about exploiting the people that I love? Exploitation is like taking advantage of somebody. It's using your power or your relationship, your status to get what you want in favor of what somebody else wants. And so having these conversations helps you actually have a productive conversation about the issue, and like exploring your values together, what those look like, helps you like live within your values. Then when a slip up happens, you can talk about, what were our values? How did you feel when you exploited me? Thank you for being honest. What would it look like going forward for us to live within those values and be more honest? Honest is another one, and it feels so much less all or nothing. It feels so much less like I've relapsed and now I'm running the risk. There's just a huge lack of curiosity in most cases when it comes to this pornography problem. There's also a lack of curiosity around, like, what is pornography? Because there's a huge scale out there of like looking at bikinis, pictures, to all the way on the other side, stuff that's like illegal that you'd be arrested for, or like really graphic and violent. And like sometimes when you hear the word porn, everybody goes to a different thing. It's a hard thing to define, because it's like, can you define food? And like, yeah, on a broad scale you can define it, but when I say food, you might be thinking of a hamburger and fries, and I might be thinking of like curry. And so we need to have the courage to tolerate the discomfort of being able to have those conversations and lean into like understanding, oh, when I look at pornography, what do I get out of it? What do I look at? Maybe there's something that I'm getting out of it that we could actually integrate into our relationship, but I've been so afraid to ask for that like, I heard a story once of a man who, what he really liked was the sound of people experiencing pleasure, just the emoting of the audio sounds of human pleasure. Really liked him, and his partner was not very expressive. And it's like, oh, if we could maybe integrate more expressiveness into our love life, maybe that would help me get a little bit more of that that pleasure that I'm seeking out in the pornography in a different space, which would be in our relationship, which feels more in alignment with our values. So how do because pleasure is a part of the conversation too. If I'm not getting any pleasure in our sexual relationship,
it needs to be addressed.
It needs to be addressed, because there's that balance between safety and pleasure. And a lot of these principles are there to help us get both. And if you're not getting any safety and you're not getting any pleasure, that's a problem.
Right.
So it's like, oh yeah, part of the reason I'm looking at pornography is because there's no pleasure in our relationship right now. And that is a place where I can find pleasure that doesn't feel like it's really hurting anybody. Oh, okay. Well, why are we not experiencing pleasure? Why are you not interested in pleasure? Why are you withholding pleasure? Why, maybe there's a conversation that needs to happen there. Maybe that could open a whole other dialogue. But those are some resources, and like, check out the 6 Principles of Sexual Health. Check out the Doug Braun Harvey's work, Kristen Hodson's work. Look into the Rethinking Porn Addiction podcast. There's some really great resources and really honest conversations there that model how to lean into this and integrate those 6 principles into your relationship, and have conversations around pornography use and out of control sexual behavior. So
super helpful. Thank you for all of that.
We could do a long conversation about that, but that's the most high level summary I could probably give you in the short time that we have left.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've covered a lot of territory. Do you feel like there's any places you would want to touch on just in regards to growth, relationships, healthy relationships, particularly from the masculine, from the men's side. Like, how can men show up better in relationship to have, deeper connection, to help their spouse feel amazing, right? Knowing that we're not going to get it perfect all the time, but like anything come to mind on just a few ideas, principles, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think that I would just go back to, it is a constant battle to not make everything about validating yourself.
Yeah.
That positive reflected sense of self. It is really hard to keep that ego in check and be willing to just be like, hey, this is take a stand for you, your marriage as a whole and your partner and their wants and desires and wishes. I think that's a really noble thing to do. So I would say just like keep doing the work of being curious and trying to like grow your emotion bowl.
Yeah.
To learn to self-soothe and calm yourself down when you're feeling charged, to learn to be like a safe place for the people in your life, to be the person who can hear difficult news or be disappointed without emotionally overflowing, and try and lean into like curiosity before you jump to judgment. That flexing that muscle over and over again, with some breath work, with some meditation, with some just trying to be as intentional as you can, I think is going to really take us far as men.
There was one story I want to share that happened not too long ago with my wife and I, where I had done something that hurt her feelings. There's my instinct, my reactivity to that is to justify or defend or explain myself, which makes her feel
we call it jading.
Yeah.
Justify, argue, defend, and explain.
There you go. That's my go-to, right? And I had a habit of doing that. And where does that usually lead to? Well, she would just kind of shut down, and I would feel like disconnected, right? And then we just are kind of living in that tension. There was one instance where I remember, and it was probably after some of the couples events that you taught us some things at, and other things that I've been learning along the way. And I remember sitting with her and saying, hey, can we talk about this thing? Like, I can tell, like, we're feeling off right now. It feels like we're disconnected. What's going on? And she said, well, she was afraid to bring it up because she was so used to my justification, whatever, defensiveness, all that, right? But I was like, no, really, like, it's okay. Like, you can tell me, like, you can, I'm not going to do those things. I'm just going to listen, and you can tell me what's really going on. And so she started to tiptoe into it. And my reaction to that was to say, yeah, I can understand why you'd feel that way. Like, what else? Like, is there more? And then she tiptoed a little further, and I was like, yeah.
How did you feel in the middle of this?
I felt powerful, honestly.
But did you also feel like a desire, like a tension to go back into the justification at all? Like, did you feel the need to be like, but here's what I was thinking in the moment? Or...
Oh, I mean, I have felt that, but in this space I was in,
not as much.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Like I was just in a Zen mode.
Good for you.
It was awesome. Yeah. The reason I'm telling you this story is because it's kind of a special, rare one, right? That like stands out. But I was just like, yeah, okay, I can. So I was empathizing with her, understanding why she would feel the way she felt because of something that I had done that caused her some pain, you know? And it was so powerful as a man. Like I felt like I could just hold her space in such a beautiful way. And she was able to go to the vulnerability that she felt like she couldn't prior. And after she just let it all out, I didn't feel like I just held her, and I can't remember, maybe we had a cry, or I can't remember what exactly happened. But afterwards there was a depth of just feeling love for each other that was so powerful. Yeah. It was incredible. And I was like, yeah, I just heard from my wife the ways that I hurt her, which normally in the past would have made me feel disconnected, whatever. But just holding space for her and allowing her to express and not freaking out and not doing all the things, it was really powerful. It was amazing. And so that's just like one little story of what felt like growth to us. And
for sure.
And it wasn't like invalidating. I didn't feel like I was like just being the doormat.
Yeah.
It felt different. It felt like a higher state.
Yeah. Yeah. You weren't being a pushover. You weren't being a doormat.
Right.
You were giving your partner the gift of healing.
Beautifully said.
I love, I don't know if it's called the Hippocratic Oath, but the doctors
do
take,
no harm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doctors make this commitment to do no harm.
Yeah.
And there's so if they're ever in a situation where they can help somebody medically, they're kind of morally obligated to do that. And I feel like in a marriage, you have all of the tools and resources that you need to heal your partner of not only the wounds that you inflict on them, but many of the wounds that they've carried into the relationship from the way that they were parented or raised, or some of the damaging and harsh lessons or experiences they've had in their life. Like, you have such an opportunity to help them heal from that. And like, if you truly love somebody, why wouldn't you want to give them that healing?
Yeah.
And there's something really special about having a moment or multiple experiences like the one that you just shared, where you're like, okay, my partner's hurting. Doesn't matter what caused it, even if it was me that caused them harm. I have the tools and the resources and the ability to help them feel better, to help them heal, to help them find peace and release from this burden, this heaviness, this pain that they're carrying with them. Like, if you love somebody, why would you not do that? Why would you not give them that? But sometimes we're so focused on what we want and what we need and who we need to be in the relationship, and that we can't be the bad guy and it's not our fault. And if they just saw things from our perspective, they would know that they're wrong and I'm right. Like, we're so fixated on that, on validating that I'm a good guy and they're the person who's wrong and makes the mistakes and is bad and makes my life miserable. It's not the other way around, that we just let our partner suffer. But if we can grow up and take a deep breath and be willing to lean into discomfort and tolerate discomfort for growth and hold on to ourselves and expand our emotion bowl, we can sit down with our partner and we can say, what is hurting right now? And how can I help you feel better? And that is the biggest gift you can give a person, I think. That is the greatest expression of love.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nate. Appreciate everything you shared with us.
Anytime.
And if people want to find you, connect with you, hear more of your content, the Growth Marriage Podcast, where else would you point people?
I mean, all the resources that I listed today, the Growth Marriage Podcast is great. The Rethinking Porn Addiction Podcast is great. Hit me up on social media.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet.